Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm 𝗪𝗧𝗡𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧, anchor at the Trust for WSJ, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this SoundHound AI virtual event that will focus on the topic of the rise of AI agents, separating hype from reality. Our goal is to explore the current landscape of AI agents, helping you really cut through the noise and understand what's really possible for your business. We'll dive into practical strategies and real world insights, showing you how these powerful tools can boost efficiency and also growth. Joining me to provide some insight on whether consumers are really ready to trust AI with their customer experience is Andrew Weiselberg, the VP of Marketing for SoundHound AI. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you, Rocky. Great to be here.
So I want to jump right in. SoundHound recently conducted research where you concept tested, right, agentic AI agents with more than 1,000 consumers. Can you give me an overview of the report?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started designing the research, we first wanted to see what was out there. And when we looked at all the customer service research in the marketplace, there was one prevailing theme that kind of resonated, and that was that people want to talk to people. And when we started digging into our survey design, we really wanted to test our hypothesis was that it's not really that people want to talk to people, it's that they feel they need to in order to accomplish whatever the customer service task is that they want to accomplish on a particular day. So, having all this great agentic AI technology, we wanted to understand the effect on customer satisfaction from today's experiences compared to what it could be with an agentic AI system. So, 1,000 plus customers. These are all people that had recent customer service interactions in a variety of verticals. And then we built agentic AI demos in the banking space, the insurance space, as well as the hospitality space. And when we compared the pre and post, if you look at the data, what we found was that top box customer satisfaction went from 26% all the way up to 57%. So that's a 121% increase, which is pretty substantial. And when we started peeling the layers back on why that actually was, it really came down to speed, efficiency, and time savings. And just reading one of the quotes that we got from the survey that I think sums it up: no need to talk to humans. Tasks were done faster than a human could. So, while this is certainly directional data and research, we're already starting to see these increases in customer satisfactions with current deployments. And we think as AI agents are deployed more widely, we expect this trend to continue.
That's so interesting. Andrew, look, the truth is for a long time, right? Automated customer service, pretty terrible. So walk us through this, how this new generation of AI agents are different.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I would say that our research absolutely confirms that today's consumer does not hold customer service automation in high regard. It actually didn't score particularly high. And when you think about it, it makes a whole lot of sense because a lot of this technology that's out there is decades old. I mean, chatbots hit the scene 20 years ago. IVR technology was invented in the 1970s, and it's still widely deployed across all types of commercial businesses today. So really what's different between that and today's agentic AI systems is they can listen and reason because they're really, really smart. And that allows them to understand what the caller's intent is. They can break that down into specific goals, and it could have multiple goals because there could be multiple intents behind a specific query. And that allows the AI agent really to get to end-to-end automation. So going back to the research, they want their issue resolved, they want it resolved quickly, and they want it end-to-end. So really that's how you're going to get to better outcomes. And really the two flavors that enterprises are looking for in terms of better outcomes is higher containment rates so that customer interactions don't have to go to a person, particularly when you're talking about very high volume and low value transactions that are very repetitive. And the other piece that we're seeing, again, citing the research and what we've seen in the marketplace so far with our deployments, is higher customer satisfaction. So we think the combination of those two things are really going to be a game changer in the customer service space.
Andrew, I want to dig in a little bit more here. Can you talk to us about what are those key technological advancements that address the past pain points and genuinely make people more willing to engage with AI?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, let's go back to November of 2022. OpenAI launched ChatGPT, and overnight the world basically changed. And, I think initially, and I was amongst one of these people, everybody was amazed at the technology. They thought that this was stuff that wouldn't be possible for, a very long time. But the reality is there was a lot of hallucinations. So enterprises started playing with the technology and trying to get around that. And, really with generative AI and really kind of accelerating in 2024, you saw two different types of use cases that enterprises were pursuing. The first one is really generative AI powered chatbots that really kind of started the AI agent term, and really much bigger scope, less decision tree logic, and you can have a much more robust knowledge base to pull from to answer all kinds of questions. So that was very powerful, and that's still going on today. The second one is using generative AI to really summarize vast amounts of data, doing analysis, and then outputting that into content that could be easily disseminated across organizations. And obviously that kind of accelerates the business cycle. People are learning faster and leading to better efficiencies, better efficacy. And again, a lot of really good things going on in that space. But it was really 2025 when agentic AI came on the scene. And I think that was the game changer from a customer service perspective, because, as I just explained with how AI agents work, really what they can do is they can zig and zag with a consumer and really hold a conversation. They have the memory, it could understand multiple intents, it could switch contexts and come back and forth just like a human was. And, we think that's the functionality that really is allowing you to get, again, to those end-to-end resolutions. And that was something that really wasn't possible even, 2 years ago.
Trust is an important part of this conversation. And I know that when we talk about trust, we're talking about transparency, about data privacy. Talk to me a little bit about what are some of the crucial non-tech factors that you believe are incredibly essential for fostering consumer trust in these AI-powered consumer interactions?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot to unpack in the area of trust for sure, but I would kind of break it down into three different areas. I think the first one is around data privacy. These agentic AI systems need to have, regulations kind of baked into their logic, thinking about like GDPR, thinking about if you're in a heavily regulated industry like healthcare, you have to follow HIPAA compliance. So there's a lot there that needs to happen. That's the first one. The second one I would say is really topic guardrails. If it's a customer service AI agent, you don't want it talking about politics, religion, and a whole other variety of inappropriate topics. So having that functionality and that tool, those tools built into your systems are really important. And then the third bit I would say is really is trackability and being able to audit the logs and understand not only what was said, but the logic behind why an AI agent made a specific decision. And if you can look at that, then you could go back to the prompting of the AI agent, make changes, because certainly they're going to need to be optimized. They're not static. People need to manage them. So when you line up those three, I think those are kind of the real pillars to kind of ultimately facilitate trust if those things are all done very well.
So Andrew, the tech is better. We're building trust. Where do you anticipate consumers might still be a little bit more hesitant to fully embrace AI?
Well, yeah, I think this is the area, going back to the fact that today's customer service automation is, largely old technology. I think there are ingrained behaviors that we have all learned, and I think we can all relate to. who has not spammed the 0 button trying to get to a person? Who has not yelled operator into the phone until you're blue in the face? I think what companies who are deploying these agentic AI systems need to kind of understand is that there is an education that needs to happen with consumers, because they're used to these old systems and behaving a certain way, when the reality is they can just ask for what they want and the AI agents will go right to that, and you can kind of skip over a lot of the automation that has been frustrating us for quite a while.
So if AI agents are getting so good, Andrew, I have to ask you, what does this mean for the human customer service representative, right? Is it about AI replacing people, or is there a future that you see where AI actually empowers the human side of customer service and they work together? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I'll say that. There's a lot of salacious headlines that we see every day in our news feed about AI agents taking over all kinds of jobs, and certainly that gets headlines. But my personal opinion and the prevailing opinion at SoundHound AI is that people and AI agents are going to be working together for a very long time to come. And, looking at the specific example of what's going to happen in the call center, absolutely, there are going to be less people picking up the phone and, again, dealing with high volume, low value interactions. But what they're going to be doing is they're going to be dealing with the more complicated issues, more sensitive issues, where it's more appropriate for a human rather than an AI agent to handle. This is things that we see with every paradigm shift in technology. People's jobs changed in the PC era, the internet era, mobile, cloud. So I think AI is no different. Certainly people are going to have to adjust, and there's going to be some retooling of skills. But I think the people that learn how to work with AI agents are really going to benefit. So my advice is embrace AI, because I don't think it's going away. Certainly there is a lot of hype that needs to be cut through, but the technology is certainly real and very exciting.
That is good advice. AI is certainly here to stay, so it is time. You're absolutely right about embracing it. Andrew, that's our time for now. I know that you'll be back later in the program. And so thank you so much for helping us kick off the webinar today.
Thanks, Rocky.
Well, hello, if you're now just joining us. I'm 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗚𝗘𝗖𝗧, anchor at the Trust for the Wall Street Journal. Welcome to our virtual event produced in partnership between the Wall Street Journal's custom content team and SoundHound AI. For anyone operating a business, strategically integrating AI agents is no longer an option. It's a must. We're incredibly lucky to be joined by 3 experts who will give us their take on how to best navigate this rapidly evolving technology and unlock its full potential for your organization. Please join me in welcoming Michael Anderson, the EVP and General Manager for Enterprise Conversation AI and Autonomics at SoundHound. Crystal Broy, it's so good to have you. Yeah. Crystal Broy, Enterprise Chief Digital Transformation Officer at the Medical University of South Carolina. And Shannon McCullum, VP Hotel Operations for Resorts World Las Vegas. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Before we dive into what's sure to be a very fascinating conversation, if anyone in the audience has a question, I did want to let you know that you can pop that right into the chat box, and I will do my very best to get to as many of them as possible. So please don't be shy. Pop those questions. We really want to hear from you. Michael, I'm going to start things off with you. For those who still might be trying to grasp the nuances, how would you describe agentic AI in plain language? And what makes it different from the AI that we've already been hearing so much about, like Gen AI? What makes this the next frontier for businesses?
Yeah, it's important to distinguish between both generative and agentic AI for multiple facets. But generative AI is really focused on the creating of content, so using prompts to create that content. It could be content such as an image as I'm a new a new company trying to create a brand, and I want that image I want to put out there to the market. Or it could be text related to a university student that's looking to create text on a paper that they're writing for their class. Or it could be as simple as an image beyond that. So I then look and I shift to what agentic AI does. It moves beyond the creation of images, technology, or tech and code, but it moves into what I would call as acting. It takes action against a request. It allows you to work and to make decisions autonomy. And it drives problem solving that worked by itself without any human invention or involving it other than itself. So when I think then the next frontier, it's moving beyond the creating, but it's born into taking that action. And why is that important? It's important because when you think about where we've gone with automation within companies today, it allows them to go and unlock new automations, go further in where they're actually allowing them to deliver more positive business outcomes for the solutions that they're inheriting or they're acquiring. For example, I want to go into what I would use as a telco and a telco customer experience perspective. I'm going to give you the legacy way of how you would actually call into that customer care versus what you would do today if you were using agentic. Legacy wise, you would go into and you call the 800 number and it would be very menu prompt based. It would probably not know who you are, and it would ask you why you're there by going through specific prompts, hitting 1 through 6, or asking you to say a specific utterance or word for it to actually help navigate you to that problem. For instance, I want to pay a bill, or I want to actually change my plan because I'm going to go international. Now, let's shift to what agentic AI does for you today if it was involved in that type of solution. If I call in that 800 number now, it's going to know who I am. It's going to know who I am, and it's going to have history of who I am. It's going to ask me to basically provide them why I'm there. So am I there to ask questions, or am I there to take action? Based on those specific areas, it's going to go and do that work. So as the example I used prior, I want to pay my bill, or I want to actually change my plan. It's going to actually make allow me to make that payment because it has the history there on my payment, but I also may have some questions related to that payment, and it's going to allow me to speak with natural language to get my answers resolved, leveraging the content and data that it has and that knowledge within those systems of record. But furthermore, maybe it's not trained on how to provide me support in international planning. So what it allows me to do is it allows it to qualify and engage me. And then at that point, intelligent routing, not going through prompts, not going through and starting over and building up anxiety as a user and maybe wanting to exit and have to call back later, but allows me to actually get to a human, an agent that's skilled in that skill set, and allows me to deliver that outcome. And allows me to actually get my plan adjusted for when I make that travel. That way it removes that anxiety and reasons for in the past I may have actually aborted that call and moved on.
Thank you. That's such a clear description. I love the example you gave us. Thanks so much. Crystal, as a Chief Digital Transformation Officer, you're the one, right? You're at the forefront of integrating new technology. Where do you see the most immediate and the most impactful business value in deploying agentic AI within an enterprise, especially in a complex environment like healthcare? And what problems can it solve right now?
I think agentic AI is really good at automating the administrative tasks that we have, like pre-registration, prior authorizations, insurance verification, and even appointment scheduling. And with that, if the agents can do that, it frees up our staff to focus on more high-value work. It eliminates friction in our patient access, right? Agentic AI can guide patients 24/7 through voice, chat, web, that improves satisfactions and really gets patients to where they want to go when they want to do that. But it's also helping us streamline back office. So like coding support, documentation prep. It can even do things like supply chain management, where AI agents follow decision rules and escalate when needed. And for our staff, it really reduces burnout and helps improve throughput. That increases operational efficiency and decreases after-hours work for our team.
Thank you. Shannon, can you share an example of how you're seeing agentic AI transforming hotel operations or the guest experience? I'm really interested in sort of what does unlocking the agentic advantage look like in a real world setting?
Absolutely. At Resorts World Las Vegas, we've got over 3,500 guest rooms, and we get thousands of calls a day to our call center. Being a luxury hotel, we're really focused on reducing the volume and being able to increase our guest experience, reduce those wait lines. The benefit of using AI with our large volume is to be able to streamline the experience for the guest. If the guest has a very easy request, like they need 4 towels sent up to their room, that is something that our AI agent can take care of and automatically integrate into our housekeeping system. So there's no individuals involved, no swivel chair. And those towels can be sent to, that request can be sent to a device that is on a house person up on the guest room floor, thereby being able to get that request to our guests in such a very quick, short manner of time. So it's very exciting to be able to see what it's doing at our hotel and how efficiencies are being brought. Last year in 2024, we had over 223,000 interactions with Red, our digital concierge, that were not escalated up to an individual. And that is huge for us. That's 59% of our volume enabled without an interaction. So definitely helps with the call volumes and able to deliver upon that luxury experience that we have for our guests.
230, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. It's a great stat. I have a question for all three of you. Michael, I'm going to have you start us off, and then Crystal, I'll have you go next. I know that this transformative shift, it comes with challenges. We understand that. So what are some of the biggest potential disruptions or hurdles that businesses need to be prepared for when integrating agentic AI? And are there specific areas, in your opinion, where organizations might face unexpected friction?
Yeah, I would like to break this down into 3 different areas. One is process, people, and technology. Let's start with people. The workforce transformation is going to happen. You're going to see a shift in skill sets. You're going to have to upskill, and you have to look at where these individuals actually sit within the business units, either on the IT side or on the business side, and who's actually supporting the build out of these solutions that are agentic and autonomous in nature. You're going to be able to move away from programming and hard coding these solutions to literally prompting them and allowing them to actually go out and autonomously work for you. So it's almost to the point where any individual within the business can actually create these and support them without having any support from IT. So it's a big shift for how you look at the workforce transformation. The next is trust and control. When you think about these solutions, there are individuals that are going to start going, man, this is going to take my role, or is it going to do the right thing, or is it going to hallucinate and cause me friction for my end consumer, my patient, or my employee? And you do need the guidance, and you need the levers of people that are looking at these things, but using technology to make sure you're capturing where hallucination may happen or is recurring to stop that from preventing, because you want to drive high adoption. And if you're giving bad responses, that adoption is not going to be where you want it. Let's focus on process. Process is going to be very oriented around how good is my data? Is my process aligned with what I can do with agentic AI or any automation? Reality is companies are doing acquisitions, they're selling off businesses, or they're scaling up or they're scaling down. And as they do that, they're taking on new technologies, and they're looking at those technologies, and they're not always integrated together. So they're disparate. That means also the data and processes are disparate. So how do I orchestrate and work with technology that allows me to pull all that together to give me the right outcomes or the right responses for both my employees, my patients, or my consumers? And then lastly, let's focus on technology. It's definitely known that the complexity of these integrations are out there. They're getting simpler. The long pole and intent used to be, hey, how long will it take me to integrate these things, and how is it going to work? Now we are able to integrate within seconds, and using agentic AI is going to allow us to get there. But the focus is making sure that we actually get these systems integrated in a manner where when I'm engaging that in agent, it knows where to go, and it knows how to provide me the right response versus going to the wrong area and delivering the wrong response, which obviously is going to make me doubt that it actually can provide me the support I need from any question I have or any task I'm asking it to do. Lastly is the security risk around technology. There's a lot of people out there. They're out there trying to find ways to break into these businesses, trying to find ways to get data and actually hold you hostage. It is important that you look at upscaling your teams, looking at your cybersecurity measures, and making sure that you have the right rules and you're focused on protecting the business through this new channel, which is agentic AI, that they could actually go through to disrupt.
Crystal, same question for you. What are the hurdles or disruptions that businesses need to be prepared for when integrating agentic AI?
I think Michael touched on this a little bit, but things are always changing. Businesses grow or shrink, they acquire new things. And so I think it's data that's really one of the big things. And you really have to have your data strategy together, because agentic AI isn't only going to be as smart as the data that you have. So if it's not clean, if it's not well labeled, you're not going to be able to pull the data in a correct way that you need to. So you need to identify your source of truth system, and close gaps in that data integrity. Get rid of your duplicate records, make sure the fields are all named the same. And then a lot of times outside of data, we worry about perfection. We don't want to put something out there until it's absolutely perfect. And I think a better way to start using agentic AI is to start with high impact use cases, improve the process, but also your data iteratively, and build in feedback mechanisms so that you can actually see those workflows work and at the same time get some impact out of the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Shannon, anything to add? Crystal, I'm going to come back to you on data right after this.
Yeah, we go back to something that Michael said. Education of our team was really important. Making sure that they understand that we're not replacing their jobs. We're just freeing them up to take care of more complicated situations with our guests. And I think it's really important to note as well that some of our hotels are union environments. And it's important for us to think about that in advance. Some operations might need a longer term notification in order to be able to introduce technology in that kind of a setting as well. But overall, once our teams see the benefit of what the technology is bringing, they see the call volumes coming down, they really embrace the technology, and it becomes something that is really making their work environment a much better one.
Trust also, right? That goes back to that idea of trust. That's trust within our organizations and with our people as well. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Crystal, you talked about data, the importance of data strategy and data quality. What advice do you have for businesses who are looking to get their data in order in preparation for agentic AI?
That's always the tough question, Rocky, right? Because we have all this data and we don't necessarily govern it well. And one system, the customer might be called this, the next system, it might be called patient, and so on. And so I think you really need to start with a data governance strategy and decide who owns those data pieces, and then create a central source of truth for what that data should be in order to make that more smooth.
Michael, I want to talk a little bit about the human element here. How do you envision the workforce evolving as agentic AI becomes more widespread? Will it sort of augment the human roles, create new ones, lead to shifts, everything? What do you think?
No, that's a great question. When you look at this, this has been around. Conversational AI has been around for 10 years. This is not new. In the evolution in the movement of conversational AI and how it's adopted with that technology, going from legacy like press 1, 2, or 3, going to bots that actually are designed to take you through a flow, now to conversational through deterministic. Now we've moved into agentic, which allows you to work autonomously. So they're moving with the workforce. The workforce is also adopting these technologies and creating the skills and upskilling individuals along the way. So as I look at the workforce, I do not believe this is replacing jobs today. I believe potentially in the future, but right now it's augmenting them. It's augmenting them in a way that allows them, and this is a pretty standard response for anybody that's asked this question, is it allows them to go and focus on more strategic things, focus on proactive things that deliver value for the company, not just those mundane tasks that are literally repeated and really not, there's not reward there from anywhere from a career perspective and individuals that want to come. You want to actually bring in the right talent that are going to go off and do things that are obviously creative and proactive for the company, delivering that value. So I also see that building the emergence of new roles. When I think about agentic AI and I think about where this is going, and I talked a little bit about the shift from IT to the business and those interdepartment shifts for where those roles go, I start thinking about now the business needs to make some decisions on, do I create this organization that's going to go out and build these agentic AI solutions. And how do I do that? And if I do that, I'm going to start from the top down. I'm going to pick an executive sponsor that's willing to go out there and be disruptive, that's going to make change from the norm, that's going to drive through and work through the business cases that we've actually designed to get us to the value that we actually, and reason why we purchased this product or these products. And when I do that, I also need to look at the resources that fall under that. And there are going to be new resources that are created. Those resources are going to be around prompt engineering. It could be AI trainers. It could be enablement artists that actually go out there and help support the employees to bring them along the journey so they don't get build anxiety thinking their jobs will be replaced. But it's also making sure that you're looking at the right skills that can actually deliver the right outcomes and designed to deliver the best experience for your patients, your consumers, or your employees.
Thank you. Shannon, I want to follow up with you on this as well. You have a diverse amount of guest interactions, from checking in to dining to entertainment. The folks like me who are always asking for extra towels, right? You get a lot of us. Mm-hmm. Michael touched on this a little bit about upskilling. How do you think about upskilling your staff to work alongside these agentic AI systems and still focus on your guests who expect a high level of personalized experience, right, when you check into a hotel? So in other words, like the human touch.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that our workplace is shifting, and our technology is shifting, and our teams and our leadership have to be nimble to adjust as the systems we change adjust. And at our property, we really focus on really understanding how the requests are going through the system, which requests are successful. And we actually have teams of people that not only talk to our guests through chat and messenger, but then also through chat on our website and through the phones. And understanding what is successful, what needs to be updated, that's really important for us, because again, being able to take care of those easy requests through our digital concierge opens up our ability to be able to take care of our guests who truly have the most complicated situations that needs a person to take care of. And I think that's what's really important for luxury properties who might be a little nervous about implementing AI into their businesses, that it will actually help them to be able to give some of our guests who just want to have a quick response and they don't want to talk to anyone, take care of their requests, and then be available for those guests that need more services.
So Shannon and Crystal, my next question is for both of you. Shannon, I'll stay with you. For businesses just starting to explore agentic AI, I'd love for you to give us one or two really actionable first steps they should be considering taking to prepare their enterprises for this shift. You know, Shannon, you could probably talk to us more from an operational readiness perspective, and Crystal from a broader digital transformation view. And Shannon, I'll start with you.
Absolutely. And I think in our business, things are always changing. So making sure that your data is correct and understanding where you're getting your information from. We've got websites, we've got internal platforms, we've got so many different areas where we hold our data. And, you know, if the weather changes and the pool's closed, I can't be telling our guests or our digital sources that they can go to the pool because it's available. So it's understanding how, as a team, we organize that and we operationalize those changes and look at those triggers, whether we look at bringing weather reports in and closures for our pool when we have lightning in the area. Those kind of things are really important when you're using this technology. Because if our guest goes on and they're asking a question and it's incorrect information, they'll lose trust in what we're doing. So I think that's what I would say, is just making sure that you know where your data is before anything gets transitioned. Make sure that it is correct and it's not outdated. And then training your team is really important with how to interact. And then secondarily, what are the mechanisms that we can put in place to understand where our successful transactions are happening, and then which ones continue to escalate and why, and really digging out that analytic data so that we can understand how we can address that to get a higher conversion.
Thank you. Crystal?
Ends up being convener of many different parts of the organization altogether, from marketing and accounting and patient services and so on. So getting them together as stakeholders to really solve a problem is something that's super helpful when we get to starting to do a transformation. And then asking, like, where are your pain points? What problems can we solve together? And then looking at those processes and not just putting any technology, whether it's agentic AI or any other technology, on top of it, but instead making sure the process is as smooth as possible, as lean as possible before you do that, is one of the big things to take into consideration before you even put a technology on there. And then after that, it's start small, get those champions, and then work the story. Have data behind it to show how it's changing. Call volumes are down 20%, and we're able to lose our abandonment rate by 4%. We get patient satisfaction up so much more when we're using our agentic AI, and start telling those stories, even when it's just a small amount, so that when you extend it across the enterprise, you see really big gains. I think that's the places to start.
Thank you. And Shannon and Crystal, it's so good to hear these real examples of how this agentic AI is improving the experience for your customers and for people. So I really appreciate those anecdotes. Michael, I need you to get out your crystal ball, because we're going to look 3 to 5 years down the road. What are some of the emerging trends or capabilities within the agentic AI that truly excite you and that businesses should start thinking about today?
Yeah, I'm going to answer this based on user experience. I think it's better to focus on what are we developing here to actually deliver the right experience for those users. A lot of us remember the .coms, and I go back, and I was definitely graduating college and looking at the .com going, I missed it. Well, it's coming back. Reality is the transformation in e-com is happening. You're no longer going to go out there and have these massive websites with so much content that's overwhelming that I quite frankly don't even know where to go or how to navigate. And I get to the point where I just abandon. And that's not a great asset for you to continue to invest in if there's a better way to do that. And a way to do that is driving digital AI agents that actually can meet you at the site and navigate you through that versus you just self-serving yourself. And it also not only navigates and helps you through that, but think about it as a concierge. For me, if I went into a resale store, a person would come up and walk me through what I needed and ask me if I needed help. Well, the same logic applies here. But it doesn't just apply here, it actually goes further. It knows who I am because I've visited the site. It knows that I actually am the size that I am. It knows what type of colors I like. It knows what brands I want. So it makes recommendations based on new things that are out as far as that clothing line. And so I'm using retail as an example. But it not only does that, it also will help me cross-sell, upsell into areas that I may not quite look at in the past. And it is something I may need because something's coming up for a wedding. But not only does it take you there, it takes you to the end result, which is obviously closing that transaction. It doesn't let the end user just abort. It drives them to the buy flow, which is entering my credit card and completing that transaction, which is what every business wants in retail. They don't want you just to go there and surf and actually not buy something because it's a lost asset. The second is, if I think about personalized, proactive support, we're going to move into an era where we have AI agents that are literally there to support you proactively. And I'll use a chief of staff as an example. A chief of staff knows my calendar. It knows what my emails are. It knows all the actions I need to take. It knows my roles and responsibilities. But flip that into an AI agent that is there to support me in that role. It now also can do that. It is proactive minded. It is looking at these things in advance, and bringing me ideas. It's bringing me the things I need to do in my job to complete that job quicker. So it allows me to fundamentally shift what I'm doing to be more strategic minded and actually focus on areas that are going to drive the business in the direction it wants to go.
That's a great analogy. Super clear. Thank you. Crystal, I got to ask you, putting transformative technology in place often requires significant leadership buy-in and a cultural shift. What advice do you have for leaders who are trying to champion agentic AI initiatives within their organizations and foster a culture that embraces this new frontier? And I have an audience question that I think goes along with this is, how do you estimate the cost of using agentic AI?
Oh, see, that's always the hard thing, right? Is getting that value. And I think that they go hand in hand, right? You have to have the KPIs in any project like this. You have to know what it is before you start, and then make a guess of where you want to go. and then continuing to iterate on that AI until you get to a point where it gets better and better because it learns from itself, right? But along with those statistics, like I said before, making sure you tell the story that it's not just that we deflected, 18% of the calls, but our call wait times went down, which meant people didn't wait as long, and that meant that agents were actually able to answer the more difficult calls. So I think those are the types of things. We also have to remember that, like any technology that we put in, it's a change management initiative, and you really need to communicate early and communicate often about what's happening. And to understand that, it might have some trouble the first time it goes out, but that you are working through that pipeline to make changes and make it better, and celebrate the small wins, because eventually it will become a big win. And then, like Michael said, eventually we're going to have a lot of people creating these workflows, and they're going to co-build solutions, maybe with IT, maybe with the digital team, but they'll start getting the skills where they can build their own workflows and start to get rid of the stupid stuff that's in their system and move on with more advanced tasks about themselves. But the most important thing is when we talk to our executives and talk to our teams, we're not getting rid of humans. Humans stay in the loop. There's always a place for the human to be connected in. So it's not totally a technology transaction if the consumer doesn't want it.
So I have a lot of audience questions, which is very exciting. I'm going to do my best to get through as many as possible. So we'll try and let's do it. So here's the first question I have, which is, how do you separate agentic AI hype from clear ROI? What success metrics do you use to validate meaningful business value? Shannon, I think you're a perfect person for this one.
Well, call volume is one. So how many calls are we actually having go seamlessly through our digital concierge where no one's touching it? And then what is the savings based on your average call length of time that you're able to calculate an ROI? The other thing as well with agentic AI, we're going to be able to make reservations. So how many reservations are being made? And that's a direct tie to the revenue that we'll be driving to the property. So I truly think that there's so many different ways to measure this in the savings of time, especially in a hospitality environment.
Thank you. Crystal, this one's for you. From your experiencing helping Medical University of South Carolina scale agent programs, what are the organizational and architectural bridges critical to success?
I think, first of all, you have to have a good partnership with IT, because as you move forward and you're trying to get data, or you're trying to get the AI that's necessary in order for that to happen, you have to have a good partnership with IT, so that because it's iterative, you can get those folks to help you through, whether you're partnering with a vendor or building it on your own to get that. And then I think it's important just to really communicate often, so that you can get to those areas and people understand what you're trying to do.
So this is, I think all three of you can answer this question. I'll start with you, Shannon, if that's okay. What's the expected time investment for AI to become truly customized to a business's particular operations? For those currently utilizing it, how long was it before they really felt that they have a solid representative serving clients?
I would say that it's a process, and you want to start small and you want to add certain components. So answering phones and being the first voice that is heard, then being able to ask for an operator is an easy segue into using the AI in your environment. That's how you learn what's working and what's not working. And then you take those analytic reports to understand what calls are being escalated, so you can dig in to be able to continue to grow the reach that your AI is able to manage. And it's also a progression, I would say, over many years that we've been working with 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗡𝗖𝗧, where we've continued to add on different components and continue to do upgrades. Your AI is not going to stay the same as it was 3 years ago as it is today, because there's new technology and new developments that are happening so quickly that you're able to do upgrades more quickly. I just did an upgrade a month ago. I'm looking to do another upgrade in 2 months, and it will bring additional capabilities to our property that will continue to help us to be nimble and to be efficient, and to be able to look at how it's impacting not only labor, but also my guest satisfaction.
Right, because the integration is using it is just the first step, and then it's like a constant evolution. Crystal, Michael, anything to add?
I agree with Shannon. We did the same thing. We started small with 4 phone lines in our patient access center, and just confirming, canceling appointments, and then frequently asked questions. And we went on to more lines and more lines and more lines. But then we also started rescheduling. We also did, other tasks. And eventually now we're on 42 lines in our patient access center. And then we started moving on to let's answer it in Spanish instead of just in English. And so every little bit counts. Then we moved to our revenue cycle where we saw great gains. 25% of our calls deflected the first week. And that was just amazing. And now we're looking to move it to other regions across the state, as well as into our pharmacy. I just talked to HR today. They're interested. So, it just keeps growing, and there's always more to do.
I'm going to wait a second till we get Michael back. I'm not sure we can hear him. So I will ask you this question, Crystal, that came for you, is how do you embed guardrails and auditing within agentic AI to satisfy compliance needs, especially in sectors like healthcare or finance, while also maintaining developer velocity?
We partnered with our compliance folks and our legal folks to make sure that we were going about it the right way. We also have an AI security board. They reviewed the entire project before we ever started. So super important to be able to do that. And then we check the logs. I mean, we have a chatbot on our website that's also powered by this. And we watch those logs day in and day out and look for sentiment value, looking for other things to see what's happening out there, and if there's things we need to think about, readjust how the agent says things, and so on. And we're evaluating how she answers on our access center as well.
An internal partnership is an incredibly important part of this, and you've all underscored that in different ways. And this next question from the audience is really speaks to that. So I think it's good for all of you to answer it. The main hurdle we face internally is adaptation of any new initiatives. What are some of the practical ways to make any AI more effective by focusing on user adaptation and not just the automation of tasks?
I can jump in on that one. We not only use our AI externally for our guests, but we also have automated our IT helpline. So if someone needs to reset their password, they can actually use this system in order to be able to have it taken care of more quickly. In addition, hiring websites. If when they're coming to apply for a job and they have a chatbot on there that's helping to let them know where in the process their application is, then they understand that this technology is very helpful, and it helps for them to understand when they see it in a guest format. So I do think introducing it internally with team members, in addition to externally, which is more traditionally used, has been very helpful for us.
Crystal, anything to add here?
Yeah, I'd say that, when we started these projects, we brought everybody in the room together. We had all the stakeholders in the room, and we walked through what we were trying to do and let them listen to the voice bot and let them, try it out ahead of time so that they would know as we started building it out what to do. And then we had people, we named it. It wasn't, we didn't call it Amelia or anything else. We called it Emily for MUSC, and people started to get to attach to Emily. And now she's called Emily everywhere. So it was very important. And then it just became a community of, we're talking about Emily and what Emily can do for us. And so she has her own brand. She has her own value. So yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. What strategies have proven effective in designing agent interfaces that sort of balance autonomy with user transparency, especially in mission critical contexts like medical or hospitality services?
Yeah, I think that the true transparency comes off right at the beginning. Emily answers, "Hi, I'm Emily, your digital assistant. How can I help you?" So even though she sounds very much like a person and she can be empathetic and that we do want people to know that she's talking digitally. We also tell them at the beginning, like, if you're experiencing medical emergency, this is not the line, call 911, so that they know right away, that they are dealing with, a bot of sorts.
We do something similar when our guests check into the hotel. We send them a text message, and it's from Red, our digital concierge, explaining what kind of services that they can use her help for. And that helps with our guests who are checking in, and it also encourages their use, not only on the phone, but through text messages, so that they can interact with her in their chosen manner.
That's also such a seamless way to, when you check into a hotel, right? That experience is so great. It does make you feel like, yeah, I'll give it a whirl. This doesn't seem like a bridge that I need to, like it's a far bridge to cross. That's a great example. I have a couple more audience questions, but I do want to get to my last question for both of you, which is, if there's one or two sort of key takeaways that you want folks who are on the line, you want every business leader to remember about agentic AI after this webinar, what would it be? And Crystal, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think that it's coming. I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, you can't hide under a rock. You can't be like, I'm not going to use that AI thing anymore, because it's here. And the businesses that don't take advantage of it now and start learning how it works are going to fall behind. And I think, when you look at the great stuff Shannon's done and others are starting to do in the area, it just makes so much more business sense to start now, even if you start small. So that you can start to play with it and understand it, and then think about where you can go with it.
So your advice is to start. We're not waiting,
Absolutely.
Right?
Start small, don't wait, and then play with it to see where you can get.
Shannon?
And I would add, it's not coming, it's here, and we're using it. And if you're not using it, you're being left behind. And it's bringing so much efficiency to our business. And I know from a luxury hotel standpoint, there's a lot of concern that using AI will really undermine the ability to deliver on excellent luxury experiences. But what you're doing is you're clearing the path for those luxury experiences. And at Resorts World, I know it's been a differentiator for us.
So that's our time together. I have to tell you, Shannon, Crystal, and of course, Michael, I could talk to you about this for another 30 minutes. This is so interesting. And the use cases that you brought from the hotel and from the hospital are incredibly exciting to see what it's like now. You're right. It's not coming. It's here and you're using it. So thank you for sharing that with us. And a huge thank you to our audience for your engaging questions. I really appreciated getting so many of them. And please do stay with us as Andrew Weiselberg returns with some final thoughts.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rocky. So first, I want to thank everybody for participating in today's digital event. Also want to thank Rocky and our distinguished panelists for a great discussion, super insightful. What I would say is, and I've been in technology marketing for over 25 years in a lot of different categories, and I've never seen anything move as quickly as AI agents are. And, what I would offer, kind of some thoughts in terms of in the last, 18 months, I've talked to so many different enterprises, mid-market, large companies, Fortune 50, and, the way that companies are approaching kind of the partners and the vendors that they're working with kind of comes down to three different categories. The first one is really big tech, and they have great platforms, they have great tools. I think the downside that I've seen with that and some of the frustrations, it's very DIY. It's kind of like you get a Lego set. So really, to be successful there, you need to kind of bring in the right talent. A lot of companies are using and reallocating their engineering, their product talent to that. They're bringing in consultants. Sometimes it's a combination of both. The second way, there's a lot of what we call affectionately big SaaS. I know Michael talked a little bit about the SaaS providers there. And, a lot of good technology coming out of there. I think some of the challenges that the big SaaS players have is that they have these legacy business models that are based on seat-based pricing. And really, that's not super appropriate for AI, where really you want to be paying for interactions or ideally outcomes. So I think that's kind of a business model shift, because they have franchises worth, tens of billions of dollars. And that's a transition that they're going to need to make as they're moving into the AI world. And, the third one is the pure plays. And there's a couple of really good ones there. I would like to count SoundHound AI Amelia as one of them. But I think there, it's really understanding the longevity of a lot of the companies, because, we talk about the theme of this webinar is kind of separating the hype from the reality. And there is certainly a lot of what we would call kind of faux agentic solutions out there. So I think you have to be really careful when you're vetting kind of some of the pure play AI companies. But, you know, what I would leave you guys overall, and I think Crystal and Shannon kind of stole my thunder a little bit because my closing advice is kind of very similar, but it's like, this is here, it's coming. If you're not experimenting with agentic AI systems, you're absolutely going to get left behind. And I think, you know, experimentation amongst kind of what is the right mix of partners is really important, because interoperability is something that the industry has jumped on really quickly. MCP, agent-to-agent protocols. So if you're building different agents with different platforms, different partners, ultimately all of these are going to be able to come together. And I think where the battlefield ultimately is, and where you really need to start thinking about as an enterprise provider is, where are you going to house all of these AI agents? Where are they going to be orchestrated? Because you will build AI agents in a lot of different platforms. So, you know, just a couple of thoughts, you know, to leave everybody with, but we're absolutely in kind of the bottom of the first inning. Get out there, experiment, and, you know, again, reiterating what Shannon and Crystal said, if you're not experimenting with AI agents, you should soon, because otherwise you will absolutely be left behind.